the exposure that streamers are able to bring to their audience with the games that they're playing on their platform, and whether it's on Twitch or YouTube, is so valuable for the game developers and publishers, especially nowadays. Although, unfortunately, there are some people who still don't understand that and have can have some very archaic takes on this whole debacle. Hello everyone, today I wanted to talk about a topic that's pretty much up my alley and pretty relevant to what I do as a YouTuber who plays video games here on YouTube, and also sometimes stream games on Twitch. So thought I'd chime in with my two-piece, and of course, everyone else has already spoke their opinions, whether it's on Twitter or YouTube, of course. So thought I talk about it. So it involves with creative director of the Stadia Games, Alex Hutchinson, having his own take on this sort of situation. This came from the event of Twitch having the DMCA takedowns and what have you, with a lot of the VODs across the platform, and a lot of streamers had to take down their old sort of VODs and clips just to avoid any sort of grave possibilities that could, put their channel on the line here. Alex Hutchinson came out with his own opinion about, streamers worrying about their content and whatever, with his own sort of take that everyone has decided to sort of express their counter opinions on it, because it's a very archaic sort of take on it, if I'm going to be honest here. So I guess I'll read out loud of what Hutchinson said for those who kind of don't know already. And he said, streamers worried about getting their content pulled because of music they didn't pay for should be more worried about the fact that they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well. It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it. The real truth, this is for his second thread of the tweet, the real truth is the streamers should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use. So that was his take on this relationship between games and streamers. And of course, the outcome, I guess, that he thinks happens with the game developers and publishers, right? So he believes, seems like that streamers are just making a profit off of their property. Therefore, they should pay them royalties of such back to the developers and publishers, so that, that's how business goes, I guess, in his mind, right? Now, I do see why he said it like that. I mean, in the past, this sort of reminds me of Nintendo, of not exactly agreeing with what content creators such as myself were doing with the Nintendo IP, such as their games and of course their music too. It was such a mess at that time. I think it was back during 2015 or whatever. Nintendo just absolutely did not like anyone using their property to quote unquote sort of profit off of via ad revenue, right? But there's definitely more to it than that, just making money off of their content, essentially. How I see things is, you're putting your creativity into something you love, you're passionate with, and you just want to just make something back for that, right? But Nintendo didn't see that otherwise, and they just thought, hey, you're making money off of our property, and we're gonna have to claim that, right? So that angered a lot of content creators back then, especially the big Nintendo fans such as myself. I've been through that situation as well. So that's pretty much what Hutchinson is pretty much sort of stimulating, right? That's his take on it is that streamers are just making a profit from the games they're playing, coming from a creative director for games, I guess. So there you have it. That's kind of like the sort of TLDR of things, and how it's similar to what happened in the past. So Nintendo even had their own creative program, or creators program later on, kind of like what Hutchinson sort of suggested in other tweets as well. Sort of like try to, revenue share essentially, right? So I think later on Nintendo was just like, screw it, let's just let everyone do their thing, not claim any more ad revenue and such, as long as it's just not a 100% sort of just re-upload of, let's say, like music on whatever channel or platform, which is more understandable. I can definitely see that. But when it comes to people sort of being throwing their creative input with their games, yeah, that should go at least mostly towards the creator, because they put their creative input to it, and Nintendo in the past claimed all of it, so that was a problem there. It just seems like Mr. Hutchinson here just doesn't really get it. Even Nintendo moved on from that for a good reason, because there is a huge value having streamers play whatever game on their platform. There is absolutely a value in that, and most companies, from video game developers and publishers, definitely see that value, absolutely. And 100% all the indie game developers use that as their asset to get their games out there. Look what happened with Among Us. A couple of big streamers started to pick up Among Us, and they streamed that for the first time, and look what happened. Look what has happened now. Among Us has become so big to the point where that much more people are buying their games and playing them with their friends and all that stuff. It's just a prime example of what content creators and streamers could do for video games, and for, of course, the companies that develop these and publish these video games. So this is such a valuable symbiotic sort of relationship, and Alex Hutchinson here just fails to see that for some reason, and is very, very adamant on this take on things. Now, while I do understand where he's coming from, there are some problems with this tweet coming from Hutchinson here, because there is a strong sense of sort of irony here. So the elephant in the room I wanted to point out was Jacksepticeye pointing out that the banner on Hutchinson's Twitter is ironically Jack himself in fan art, referencing from him playing Journey of the Savage Planet. A streamer, a streamer playing a game that actually was something that Hutchinson himself was involved with. So it's like such a weird sort of like sense of irony here. It's such a weird thing of how this all sort of lines up, I guess, with the ridiculousness of this whole situation here. And he even went out his way to crop out the name of the artist who drew that. So it's such a like it really like destroys his whole point in the first place. And plus that I guess he's known for very subpar articles as well in the past, but I'm not going to get into that. I just wanted to point out the irony that goes absolutely against his whole point here. And to further sort of drive that nail into the coffin in this whole situation for his side of things, Stadia pretty much is trying to distance themselves away from this guy. They even had there were articles pointing out their sort of counter tweets towards his, and that that this guy's opinion is not representing what their goal is essentially. So overall, I mean, my personal take on it is obviously, with the majority here, which is that this is such an archaic sort of look on things. Again, Nintendo tried to do something like this, and it just didn't work because it's just not how it works here. When it comes to like older folks and just people who just don't understand the world of streaming and games and this sort of relationship, right? Or just content creation as well, YouTube and whatever. People like Hutchinson just doesn't understand the value and this sort of symbiotic relationship here. It's so valuable nowadays, especially with the indie games. So they really want the streamers to play their games. So why would someone should go out their way to put up this barrier between the streamer and the game, which is that barrier being the licensing fee, so that they can have the right to stream their game, that game on their platform. So that's such a bad take on it, in my opinion. I think it's, I understand where he's coming from, sure, but it's just he has to see it. He has to see the other side of it, right? I mean, the value of gamers, showing their love and passion for this game, and it will, one way or the other, affect the audience, swaying them whether to buy the game or not. And I remember a prime example for myself personally. Back in the day, I think this was during 2013 or 14, right? Dragon's Dogma just came out, right? And a YouTuber named Maximilian Dude, who has come so far, at this point. This was during his early days, just playing other video games, right? And he did a little Let's Play involving Dragon's Dogma. And after seeing a couple of episodes of him playing it, he was having fun. It looked really cool, to me anyway, and it would look really interesting. So I myself bought the game solely based off of, the Let's Play video. So that's like a prime example of what it can do for consumers, the streamers, and of course the game devs / publishers. The exposure to that video game that's occurring during these streams are so valuable. I must say it again, it's so valuable that again, like, these developers and publishers, these companies understand that, most of them anyway, but unfortunately they're just people like Hutchinson that just don't see it that way. So and ironically also, he went out and tweets like, oh, I'm gonna go play Fall Guys, which is another game that valued this sort of exposure with the streamers streaming their games and such, on top of being free on PlayStation, of course, being pretty accessible as well. But the sort of appeal and such, was something that was big a couple months back, until manga sort of overtook that. But nonetheless, though, Fall Guys, Among Us, and even, of course, now Genshin Impact value these exposures from the streamers and such. So companies definitely should, make these things accessible, when it comes to buying the video game, of course, not having to be like, hey, you shouldn't profit off of our IP. You gotta pay some sort of licensing fee for it. They're just gonna turn away, man. They're just gonna turn away and be like, fuck this, and screw it. I'm just gonna go stream another game that will not do that, and that game will get the exposure, and they're gonna make, a lot more buck out of this whole situation here. and of course increase the longevity of said video game. Therefore, they can continue to update it and see if they can, you know, put more money into it and get more money out of it with their DLC and such by updating that same game throughout time as streamers continue to stream that said game. Again, this is such a valuable symbiotic relationship. Just to sum it up, I guess Hutchinson's opinion is sort of not quite a great take on the relationship between streamers and game companies in general, whether it's a developer company or a publishing company. So I think, you know, I guess it all just makes sense because it's coming from Stadia, I guess, which did not do so successfully overall. I think they still need to work out their concepts, how it should be executed, which, you know, ironically, because you not only have to pay the subscription, you also have to pay for the game itself too. So it's like, it's, you know, adding these barriers that just absolutely deteriorate the accessibility of gamers trying to dive into this sort of cloud gaming. You know, the more barriers you put up for these video games or just any consumer product really, the more likely they just turn away and they're gonna stream something else, and they're gonna you know, again, it's all gonna just work out for everyone else who don't do these things. So but yeah, at the end of the day, I in my opinion, streamers and content creators are very valuable to the free marketing aspect of things, and it just helps video games in general. It's such a benefit, all the more for the gaming companies. So yeah, I think it's been tried. Nintendo tried it, didn't succeed. It didn't happen. It didn't work. So, you know, that's just done and done in my opinion. So that's pretty much all I gotta say. So thank you guys so much. This has been my opinion on, you know, streamers and games, and of course the companies that develop these games, whether royalties should be paid or not, or whatever the case may be. This should, you know, people work together in this situation. You know, you have the streamers, you have just playing their video games, and the video game companies that develop these games. They can come together and make such a sort of wonderful sort of happening, because, you know, the streamer gets to play their game, they get to you know, be entertaining on their platform, right, with their audience. The audience sees their game, and they're gonna go, oh, dude, this is really fun. I want to get this game too, and therefore, boom, profit, revenue for that company. You know, there you go. And if you're gonna add these sort of barriers, which is a licensing fee for the streamer, again, it's gonna just turn away, and that opportunity is missed. So I think this is kind of pretty much coming from him sort of being pretty much butthurt from his unsuccessful venture, and so he just wants to sort of leech off of people as much as he can to sort of you know, put the band-aid on it, I guess. But you know, I could be wrong on that. So anyway, what do you guys think? And you know, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps out. I really appreciate that, guys. And so that's it for the Hawke Talks. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Sean out.